Yeah, I think I just get like worse and worse doing this intro and outro shit every week. Hugh, how are you, my man? On the other
I'm
line,
alright, missing you.
I'm seeing you too, man. You know, it's just
Oh,
seems like ages away.
Not easy.
That's it. So if you're here listening to now, so we're in our second lockdown. Bam, bam, bam. Nice. And it's like, after all the shit I gave to Melbourne now, I feel a bit stupid now.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad, but I also feel like there's just no sympathy coming from anywhere else in the country.
It's fair.
It was our turn. It was our turn.
It was.
The trouble is we had like a 2 week of like warm up lockdown already, but like now we're in serious lockdown.
Well, maybe it's just like, maybe we should have done it from the start. Maybe, but
Maybe.
just
But
hey, I had fun
this
before
is
that.
this podcast is a safe haven from COVID talk though, so
Oh man, this especially like it was like this time last year. We were doing the same shit.
I know.
Caught
But
in the freeway.
we face it with a smile.
Of course. All right. So for our listeners anyway, from there we have a guest on. She's a repeat guest now. Okay. You can catch all her background story in the last episode she was on was episode 45, but we're talking to across on the internet lands, world rank Yolanda, the Springboard Schmidt. How are you?
hey, fabulous. Thank you. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
We're hanging in there.
Yeah, thanks.
It's cool. So it's great to have you back on. Thank you for coming back on as well. So really what I want to know about you is it's been a couple of years since we last talked on our last episode. So I want to see how everything's going with you. And yours is a little bit of a comeback story in the last year or so. Faced like serious injury from there, getting back into the ring. Hey, how about you just talk through us a little bit and let's hear the story.
Well, basically rupturing my hamstring at the ARAFURA Games, where I won gold for Australia, which was amazing. To be honest, even up to now, the surgeons have no idea how I continued fighting with only one hamstring, and neither do I. I just know that I wanted that gold more than anything. So I went ahead and continued on winning that gold medal, and then reattaching my tendon to my pelvis with 3 pins, and surgeons were very uncertain I'd ever make it back to the ring, and probably more becoming in a coaching or a trainer / cornerman kind of thing. And I refused. I absolutely refused. And I was like, there's no way that my career can just be taken away from me without my choice. So if it was my decision, different story. But yeah, so I followed all the surgeons and physio and all the medical team I had. I followed absolutely everything they gave me to the T. I was really diligent and did my rehabilitation. Had quite a few hurdles along the way. We went back in for a second surgery 6 weeks after the first one because one of the stitches didn't dissolve somewhere in my glute, so they had to go back in, get that stitch out, and continue on. I was on crutches for 11 weeks. It's a long time. There were many moments where I didn't know whether I was going to kick again or anything like that, and it made it really hard to actually be in a training environment. So while I was still teaching and coaching, I'd literally stand there and it would be really hard to watch my teammates train because depending on the day, if you're having a low day, and unfortunately with rehabilitation, there are ups and downs, and on those lower days, you would watch those people training and have those negative thoughts. Am I ever going to kick again? Am I ever going to be able to do that like they're doing? And then there's other days where you stand there and you're really amped and really motivated when you watch them training, knowing, yeah, I'm going to get back to that. And it took a very long time before I got cleared to even come back to just boxing. And I didn't realize why they wanted me to start with boxing and then slowly add the knees and then add the kicks and then add the push kicks. And when I finally returned to boxing, then I realized even my glutes, my hamstrings, everything was activating. I was like, holy shit, I've just realized how many muscles I forgot I had. And came back to boxing, and just after that, we went into our lockdown, the first one last year. And I was like, hey, for real, I'm just getting back there. Surgeons are just going, yeah, you're on the right track, and then bam, stop YOLO, you're not going anywhere. And I was like, fine. So that was actually a blessing in disguise for me because it took the pressure off of me to actually recover. The end game wasn't like, oh, it's just here. I had to take my time even more because no one else was fighting either. So it kind of gave me a chance to catch up to everyone else. And then I finally caught up to everyone else, and then there was no fights for me because I couldn't travel internationally. I couldn't travel interstate. Sydney fight pool was quite small. And then a boxing fight came up, and Andy went, "Do you want to box?" And I was like, "Have you seen my boxing?" Like, I block with my head. And we thought, well, some way to kind of get the ring rust off is at least getting into the ring. And I said, look, I'll do it. I just want to get back in the ring and feel that feel. Trained my ass off for that. So we took that fight with 4 weeks notice and trained boxing only for 4 weeks. My biggest fear was that I was going to elbow her or kick her in the fight. And to be honest, it didn't come up once. I didn't accidentally want to throw anything. I did headbutt her, and I did get called a few times for having my guard too high. I was like, at least my guard's up. But I didn't throw an elbow or a kick, so that was good. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. Boxing is a completely different ball game. So when people tell you it's just like Muay Thai without the kicks, bullshit. Completely different fight scene, different style, different fitness levels, different footwork. Absolutely everything is different. And the sportsmanship is slightly different too. I must say, Muay Thai is probably one of the only sports we have so much respect for our opponents. So I did miss that, but I got out of that ring and absolutely loved being able to be back in it. Regardless of what I was doing in it, I was in the ring, and that was my happy place. So I was so excited to then get a comeback Muay Thai fight. And 2 days before weigh-in, lockdown again. See ya, YOLO, no fight. I was like, okay, all right. Then it got postponed to the 24th, and obviously the lockdown's now been extended, so the 24th is not going to happen. But you know what? The training wasn't for nothing. My mind got to go into that full fight camp again, see what it feels like to do a fight camp all over again, all the sacrifices, all the blood, sweat, and tears, literally. And I still got it. I can still do it. And you know what? It was just our warm-up.
Yeah, it's the amount of times you just go get that like that red light in front of you since you come back. But like every time it's come in front of you from there, have you had a process or like do you have like steps to yourself, like because like I guess all of us are in the situation where like our mental health is going to suffer a little bit from there, like and you've been through a lot of adversity, like do you have any steps that kind of helps you kind of get through it just to deal with it a little bit easier?
There's a lot of things that one can do for mental health, and I can promise you, going through an injury and rehabilitation as big as the one I did, that tested my mental health 100%. I went through many low moments, but I found that finding a really great support network was an absolute must. But visualization and like writing things and putting post-it notes up around the house definitely made a big difference for me. But mentally, telling myself positive things, we're very easy to criticize ourselves really quick. That's the first thing we do. I should have done this. I should have done this. You're shit at that. You're crap at that. But when do we ever say what we're good at? So I made it a point for me to write down 3 things every day of what I've done well in that day. And I kept a journal on that. And I would write what I did well, what needs work, and where I'll have the opportunity, like time specific, to work on whatever it is that needs work. And for example, if it was my kicks that need work, then I'll say, well, tomorrow at 6 p.m. when I'm at training, I'm going to work on those kicks. But it just made me highlight things that I've done well. So I also then started recording voice things, because if I tell myself that I'm doing something well, I'll start believing it. So I recorded it so I could hear my own voice, and I pressed play in the morning and listening to myself going, you're fit, you're strong, you've done this, you've done that. Amazing for the mind. So fight week was pretty much all of that, because I don't know what kind of a fighter I'm going to be. I don't know who Yolo is anymore because it's been that long since I've gotten into the ring. So there's a lot of negative things that can creep up on you. And to make sure you're on top of that mind is 99.9% of your game. So I found that positive self-talk and writing positive things around that I can visually see it, and using a lot of visualization strategies was the only way I could make it through. And obviously a good support network.
And utilizing these strategies of kind of visualization and affirmation and things like that, were these things, I guess, that were a part of your mental preparation before your injury, or were these all new strategies you kind of brought in for the comeback?
I used to work with a mind coach, Josh
Mhm.
Maxwell, and he went through a lot of these strategies with me pre-fight. So this would pretty much be my pre-fight strategies all the time. However, I seem to go even deeper into them during my recovery. And I even did a couple of sessions with him throughout my recovery. And I read a couple of other books as well on his recommendation. And I felt like I had to really hone in a lot more because of the fact that when you're going through this, your mind will go on the negative train of thought a lot easier than it will on the positive train of thought. And so I just found like instead of just using them in fight week, I was using them more on a daily basis as opposed to just like when you're prepping for a fight. So now it's becoming more of a second nature to start using those strategies as opposed to just when it's fight time. And man, to have a toolkit of, all right, I'm going to use this one today and I'm going to use that one today is a lot easier than not having any strategies at all.
So you think, like, for a success strategy using these kind of tools, it becomes more useful as kind of like a holistic frame of mind approach than something you just turn on when it comes to getting closer to the fight?
Most definitely, and I think that's also what my recovery, this journey through recovery has taught me, is that I need to have a whole new thought process and utilizing all of those in my daily, as opposed to just going, yep, let's flick that switch on, because it doesn't work like that. So I
Yep.
definitely think that taking a holistic view is far better than becoming one person when you fight and one person when you don't fight.
Yep. Yeah, I'm interested to hear as well, like, just to kind of stay on that story of your comeback. Like, I love the way you describe it as getting told you could never fight again and just refusing. So I'm interested to hear this. So when I guess a lot of thoughts will come up when kind of a doctor says, look, you're probably finished with this. Was it a matter of getting second opinions, going to other sources for advice? Like, how do you go about just kind of denying, like, what's the process like?
Well, you know what? To be honest, I've got an amazing medical team that I've had on my side, I guess, for the last couple of years. So I trust them with my life. And when I got that first, don't think you're going to fight again, I was like, no, what do you mean I'm not going to fight again? I then went and did research. My surgeon actually told me of other athletes who he had operated on the same surgery, and I went and researched their careers and whether or not they went forward. And then I decided to take it on a case by case, and that I'm not that person or that person or that person. And it may or may not be about how determined I am, but just about the fact that I refuse to say that it's done. So even though I didn't go out and get other opinions from other doctors, I just literally thought, well, I'll take exactly what every medical practitioner has given me and follow it to the T, and then do all my other mental things on top of that. And if still then I don't make it back, then I'll accept that that's what they've said to me. But I think it's more about, like, I just refuse to accept that someone else can decide for me whether or not I'm going to stop fighting or continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there was quite a step-by-step process in terms of, you couldn't just jump back in the gym and get back to full Muay Thai. And in order to progress properly, it was probably some boxing first, and then maybe you can see how you go throwing a knee and things like that. It sounds like you were kind of getting advised, or I guess kind of my question is, like, how do you go about getting advice from people who kind of understand the sport. Like I know for a lot of people, when it comes to navigating through injuries, a lot of the time when they're kind of working through a rehab program with a physio or with their doctor or something like that, the really difficult thing is they don't fully understand the sport that they're trying to prepare you to get back to. So it sounds like you'd very much had a Muay Thai specific approach to easing in with your weapons. Was that something you put together yourself, or who did you kind of liaise with to come up with a plan there?
Well, luckily, my physio has been my physio for the last 5 years, and my strength and conditioning coach, Mir, from Ethos Performance, and my previous strength and conditioning coach, Nathan Parnham, had the conversation with each other. And Mir works with a lot of combat athletes, which means that he has more of an idea of what I'm going with, but then also I had all of these specialists communicating with each other. So it wasn't just me listening to my physio and me listening to my strength and conditioning coach. Everyone was talking and communicating, going, okay, she's at this stage with her strength. Let's start incorporating this into the program. And then so my physio would have that conversation. If ever I went to the surgeon, he would give advice. Sometimes I would actually have my phone and call Mia when I was at the physio so that he could hear what the physio was saying, and everything was just programmed collectively as one. It wasn't, okay, I've got different individual programs. It was literally one massive one. Everyone's working together and communicating really well. It was challenging in the sense that, every time they said, I'm not ready to go to the next step, it was really a big pill to swallow. I found it really hard. We're going, well, I feel like I'm ready, but based on the tests and things that they were doing, I wasn't ready. And that was the hardest part for me. So not so much as to whether or not I was able to implement them slowly, it's just fighting that with your own mind.
Yeah, and it also sounds like I guess there's a lot of people involved, a lot of professionals involved in the process. Would you say one of the keys was kind of taking down the walls between everyone who's got a different role and allowing that flow of communication?
That was one of the hardest things as well, is to make sure that each of them was 100% aware of what was happening. So I would finish with the physio and I would send Andy a message, my Muay Thai trainer. I send her a message going, this is the update from the physio. That same message would be sent to my strength and conditioning coach. Same thing if I was at the surgeon. So everything was just communicated thoroughly. If I didn't communicate that to each and every person in my medical team, then I don't think I would have gotten to the point where I did as effectively as I did. It would have been easier if, you could all just meet in a room and go, all right, this is the update. But that wasn't the case. It just made sure that I was organized enough to make sure that everyone was on the same page.
Yeah, it's like it'd be a hard battle to come up against. Like for yourself, like, because like myself, I've had fucking shitload of injuries, like tore my ACL, like had herniated discs in my back, which I had to go ER for and things like that. And like, what I felt for myself is like, what I want to ask you from that perspective, that, psychosomatically, like sometimes you can, like, you might be, your body might feel good, but you just kind of get these pains that you just go, fuck, man, like, I probably just can't do this anymore from there. But then like other days you feel like really good. Like, what advice do you have people for that kind of go through the same thing? And like, and when did you know you'll go ready, go, you know what, I think it's time for me to get back in the ring?
When you're going through a rehabilitation process, there is a fine line between discomfort and pain, and just learning what that discomfort is. Discomfort is supposed to be there because it's something your body hasn't experienced. And in my case, it was months and months and months. So it was over a year before I could throw my first push kick. Like, that's a long time post-surgery. And just knowing, well, this hurts, or this is uncomfortable. So figuring out what those two different pains are before you can actually move forward. I think at the start I was very nervous. So any pain I felt, I automatically said, oh, it's pain. It's pain. It's pain. So when I started to differentiate between, oh, this is not pain, this is discomfort, my body will get used to it. That's when I was able to start going, okay, now we can take that step forward. However, during that process, I did take on many occasions where I took one step forward and 3 steps back, and then one step forward and 2 steps back. can you just give me a break? But it was all about just finding those positives and going, yep, I took that one step forward. And that's when I started with I guess it's a little mirror of post-it notes. And each time I made one step forward, I would actually write it down. I put it up. And I started noting all of this in a Google Doc. I'm going to write a book on this. It's coming. And in this Google Doc, I documented absolutely everything, all my steps forward, all my steps back, how long it took me to reach my own shoe, to tie my shoelace, how long it took me to put my own sock on, things like that. And just being able to go, okay, yep, I managed to get that, and visually seeing it written down and go, well, 5 weeks ago, I couldn't do that. So, okay, let's take that as a positive. What's the next positive? So I started highlighting the positives instead of the negatives, and realizing that it's okay to fall. In other words, to step back, as long as we keep pushing and cheering or celebrating those real steps forward.
And do you think one of the kind of important things about like kind of building up that record of the positives is that when you do hit a speed bump or there's a little hiccup, you've always able to just look at the story so far, and it kind of puts it in a little bit of perspective that, let's not think about this one moment of being held up, but let's think about everything that's happened thus far.
Oh, 100%. And I'm unfortunately a very emotional person. So when I do get to the point where I hit that hiccup or I run into that wall and I can't quite climb over it just yet, I'll have my cry. But that cry for me is really good, because that's when I evaluate and I look at like, okay, well, where am I? How far have I gotten? Then I look back and I read over those things that I've written down in that Google Doc, and I go, actually, you know what? It's okay to hit that speed bump. I'm moving a hell of a lot more forward. So just being able to acknowledge that is really, really, really important.
Yeah. Speaking about yourself being an emotional person from this, just from photos itself, I've seen, like, I wasn't there. Like, I actually, like, I was there at the boxing thing, but I was at the amateur one beforehand. I couldn't stick around to the fight, unfortunately. But like the footage and like the sort of video, the pure elation or relief on your face, like, when you're standing there waiting to hear the decision, what was running through your head at that moment? And then when you heard the decision, what was the emotion after that?
Most of the time when they read out the scores for each round, they'll say who won that round. In that fight, they didn't. So they called out that score, and I was like, okay, did I win that round? Did I lose that round? I don't know. So waiting to the end by going, I just wanted to be enough. I just wanted to have trained hard enough. I didn't want to disappoint people. I didn't want to disappoint myself. I didn't want to disappoint my trainers. And I know in actual fact, I'm not disappointing anyone, whether I win or lose or draw, but I placed so much pressure on myself to win that fight because I hadn't fought for so long. I mean, 2 years of not being in the ring is a hell of a long time. And just standing there waiting for that announcement to be made, there was so much relief when they called my name. I just literally dropped to the ground, burst into tears, all tears of joy, of course. And I was ecstatic because I put my mind to something and I succeeded. But not only that, is that I pushed past everyone, all the naysayers, whether it's the surgeons, whether it was the fans or not fans, saying that I'll never make it back. But even me saying I'd never make it back into the ring. And although it was only boxing, it was still in the ring, and it's a hell of a lot of footwork and movement where my hamstring is switched on. But just getting back into that ring and going, I made it. An absolute feeling that I can't explain.
Well, you say like when you say it's only boxing, I would say definitely not something to discredit, because you look like there's no shortage of boxing opportunities for Muay Thai fighters, but we're not being brought in to win, right? Like the boxing promoters love to put Thai boxers in there, to make their guys look good is generally what the plan is. But you went in there and just you weren't playing along there, went and took it from them. Was that something that factored into your mind at all in the prep, or did you not really think of it like that?
I didn't know who she was at all until after the fight. I'm that type of person where I won't research my opponent. That's not my job. My job is to train. And I did that. I trained for a boxing fight. I did focus on what her movements would be like in the ring. I just focused on what mine would be. And I got into the ring and I had that fight and I did everything that we had trained for. I was really proud of what I did in there. And then afterwards, I researched and realized who I had beaten. And that hit me even more, going, well, you know what? Yeah, I was probably just brought in as an easy win, and I wasn't. I fought in that fight like I would have fought for any other fight, regardless of who it was up against. It's all or nothing. That's YOLO, all or nothing. I can't do a half-assed job. So knowing that I had gotten in there, given my all, and then still taken the win from a boxer who's been around for years and years and years, that just gave credit to all Muay Thai fighters out there. We're not just a little walkover fight.
Yeah, you're in there flying the flag.
And these days, a lot more Muay Thai fighters jumping in for boxing, because the boxing scene needs, the pool's not as big, I guess, at the moment, and Muay Thai is a bit flat. So I guess people are just taking what they can get.
Yeah. Yeah, and did that kind of, going in there and getting a pretty legit boxing win, did it kind of make you feel like, I could do a little bit more boxing, or was it just like, right, that's over, back to Muay Thai?
Like before the fight, I was like, I'll just take the fight because I just want to get into the ring and dust off that ring rust. And after the fight on that Monday, Andy and I sat down and he said, so how do you feel? And I said, well, I didn't hate it. I would do it again. And, it's obviously a different kind of training. And if I do a camp, it's a different type of camp. But legitimately, I would box again. If the opportunity came up, I would go again. So I'm not ruling it out. I'm only a one boxing fight for one win compared to my Muay Thai. And I'm technically an amateur, even though that was a pro fight. I'd do it again. I'd dip my toes in there again. And again, I would apply myself with 100% effort.
So we haven't tossed out the boxing shoes. We still know where they are.
They're still there. They gathered dust.
With your strength and conditioning, because like you got a coach that's very well versed in combat athletics, did you do any different type of training for the boxing one, or did you just you just do it pretty much like a pretty generalized kind of program to go for whatever?
For my boxing, the strength and conditioning, we did pretty much the same as what we would have, but we focused a little bit more on explosivity with the lower body and strength in the upper body. But in saying that, with this specific strength and conditioning coach, that was the first camp we'd ever done, and that was my boxing one. Whereas it's just been rehabilitation, and then this last one was my first camp for Muay Thai. So if I can compare the boxing one to the Muay Thai one, I would just say that we focus on a bit more explosivity within the legs, and I guess it's because of that footwork in and out, in and out. So same but different.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, I was listening back to our last episode when we talked from there. So, you usually sit down with the boss man, Andrew Parnham, every year. It's like, I guess it's hard now, but you said like you usually set yourself the short-term goal, the 6-month goal, and then the yearly goal from there. So, obviously, the first goal would have been like trying to get that fight that hopefully would have happened at Sun City, but it didn't from that one. But like, what was the plan for this year then? Like, so because obviously you're back into it, and you gotta get after it, and just gotta make a run for it while your body's in a good place.
Yeah, exactly. So originally our 6-month goal was to get back and have a Muay Thai fight. The boxing part happened accidentally, but that wasn't in the plan, but it happened. The 6-month plan is now expired because we're in July, so that one didn't happen. But the aim was to have a Muay Thai fight, my comeback fight, and see how it feels, see how the legs go with kicking. And then ultimately we were wanting to go interstate. Our aim is to get to one. So when we sat down at the start of the year, Boss Man and I, that's what we're talking about, is getting to one championship. And I feel like we were close to it just before we ruptured my hammy. And
yeah, no doubt.
Then everything just went And now I'm like, I'm still coming. I'm coming. I'm just like that hamster on the wheel, but I'm coming. So the aim is to get to one championship. That was my year goal, my 12-month goal. My 6-month goal was at least to get back into Muay Thai and see how we go, have a couple of fights. Essentially, if we could have, we would have gone to Thailand and have a couple of fights there and done a couple of months of training and just dusting off all that ring rust.
A couple questions off of what you say there that I'm interested to kind of unpack. So, one championship, I guess for the most part, kind of really came about in the time that you've been off, right? Like I think was probably really something that the Super Series side of it anyway that has brought Muay Thai, and in particular female Muay Thai has really gotten a push from one. So you've kind of been watching from the sidelines, and of course, it's sort of piqued your interest. Talk to me a little bit, I guess, about some of the matchups for yourself in those one championship ranks, and kind of what piques your interest there.
I just a lot of the females in my weight division, above or below, as well, are really great athletes, and I just want to test myself. I want to see who Yolo is now, because maybe 2 years ago I knew who Yolo was, but now I'm different, probably better. I'm new and improved. I just want to see what I could be up against. There's a couple of fighters who have come down in weight, and therefore means that I'm eligible. I was also at that weird weight as well that they didn't really have any athletes for one in my weight category. So it was either I had to cut a bit more or I had to go a bit heavier, and I'm always going heavier. I hate going heavier. So now with the fact that they do have a few other athletes available, it'd be great just to jump in and see how we go. Obviously, it's not just like, oh, let's just see how we go. It's literally testing myself, putting in the hard yards, and then jumping in and going, well, do I still rank up here with you?
And is there a fighter or a couple of fighters within that one roster that stand out that you really clamour for a match with?
Sometimes I look at Stamp.
Yeah.
Because she's pretty legit. Even Anissa Mexon.
Yeah, Anissa would be a really cool fight.
Yeah, and even the likes of, who's that other young one? What is her name? Now it surpasses me.
Oh. Sorry, I just froze there. I was like, Jackie Boutin?
Yes, that's exactly what Andy and I were talking about.
That would be a great fight.
That's who Andy and I were talking about, because she's now in the category where I would fall into. So essentially, that's what we'd want to go after. Just go like, hey, let's play.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And what about the kind of little gloves and the cage format? Like, what's kind of your thoughts on that? Interests you? Like it better? The idea of it better than the ring? And kind of how do you feel about the difference in format?
My only concern is eye poke, to be honest.
Yeah.
On Sundays when we're watching the fights here, that's the biggest thing that we see is like full fight camps. Everyone's trained and ready to go, and someone gets an eye poke, and there goes your whole fight. So that's my only issue. I do worry that I or my opponent will do more damage with the fact that you've got the little glove. I don't know how strong I am. I have no idea how hard I hit. I have no idea. And same with my opponents, because I've never been hit with little gloves. So I don't know how it feels. But I'm not opposed to it. I'm just opposed to the eye poke. I kind of like my eyes.
Yeah, eyesight's cool.
Yeah.
Useful.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, at the moment, for one, I think they're only really pushing the Muay Thai aspect, aren't they? They're not really doing any like the gloved up kickboxing fights.
No. So it doesn't make much sense, to be honest. I guess the best part of it would be I could clinch a bit better because I could actually feel my fingers.
Yeah, it kind of suits your style in that regard. Like you've always kind of been a strong sort of preferential clincher. Kind of would be nice to just grab your hands together. That's
it. I mean, when you get close to me, that's what I want to do is clinch. That's what I was worried about in the boxing fight.
That's right. So, so like at the moment, like for a while now for yourself from there. So you've been getting behind an initiative like each month, isn't it? From there, for promoting. Was it Orange Day? Is that correct?
Yes, Orange Day is
Yeah.
something I stand really, really strongly for. Orange Day is to raise awareness, and that's because it's such a bright and vibrant colour. Orange Day is a United Nations campaign, and they raise awareness for abuse against women and children on the 25th of every month. So most anti-abuse campaigns run yearly, whereas this campaign runs monthly. So I feel like something like that, while yes, everyone goes through abuse, men, women, children, but this specific one highlights men and women and children. And it's a monthly one for me to go stand up and help someone. So I just feel like it is a cause that anyone and everyone can get behind. All you have to do is either share one of my posts that I'm wearing orange, or post yourself wearing orange, or just wear orange on that day and just raise awareness that, it's not right to raise your hand to anyone, but in this case, women and children, or socially or emotionally abuse them too.
Yeah, it's like it's a great cause to get behind, and it's great to see there's a lot of like people like yourself, and like last week we spoke spoke to Sandy. It seems like people using Muay Thai in that positive aspect to kind of get the message out. And it's like I don't know how you do it for yourself. It seems like you're so busy, and you seem to be going for all these causes and like really helping out with the MTA and like really positive, especially during the lockdown. Like from there, really trying to keep everyone motivated from there. Like how do you find the time to do it all?
Sometimes I'm up until midnight on a Friday night or a Sunday night creating posts or planning things, but I'm a very organized person, so I guess that helps. My time management is beyond me, but I do live a very regimented life where I go, okay, I've got to do this at this time, and I've got to do that at that time. And I just make sure that everything is in my calendar. Post this on this day, do this on that day, make sure you call mum on that day. Otherwise, like, if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. But I try to prioritize things, and if I really want them to be out there, then I'll make it happen. And I feel like as an athlete, we have this amazing platform to be a voice, and it should be used. A lot of people are using it in a positive way now, specifically during lockdown. And the more awareness we can get out there, the better. And as an athlete with that voice, what better campaign for me specifically, because it's so close to my heart.
So, like, what was I going to say again? I had so much time, and I just kept listening to the rain on earth. Forgot that's gonna sound shit in the recording. That's all right. I can edit that out. That's all good. So, like, like all the serious talk out of the way now. But like, yeah, it's like, has there any been you've been watching many fights lately? Anything been interesting, or you at the moment you don't look at opponents when you're going to match up, but do you like watching a lot of people in your division? Just go, like you said, one like look at Jackie, go, yeah, I think I could see something there. I could get after.
I don't really watch a lot of females in my weight category, except if it's on UFC, because my partner and I watch UFC on Sunday. So, we kind of watch that and go, oh, yeah, she's in the weight category, but I'm not in MMA, so that's not going to help me very much. But I do pay attention a bit more when it goes, oh, she's a this many time Muay Thai champion. I'm like, oh, that might help. So, but I do like looking at the moment. I watch a lot of the up and comers, and it's amazing to see what future our sport has in both men and women, to be honest. But there's a hell of a lot of girls out there coming up in the ranks, and it's so nice to see. When I first started, all I had was Kaylee Reese and a couple of other female fighters here and there, and it was frowned upon to be a female in a male-dominant sport. And now there are just so many women that are in the sport, and it's not frowned upon at all. So now we're more of an empowering female athlete as opposed to a frowned upon female athlete. So as long as I can get to see females fight, I'm all for it. Doesn't matter what weight category.
I think it's important to note as well, Yola, you mentioned like kind of since you started how many females are coming up in Muay Thai, especially in New South Wales. Of course, yourself is a massive part of that. I've been watching you fight since before I even started fighting. Watching you fight live on Siam to Sydney and the like, and definitely have noticed a massive uptick every development day. like when we used to put on the development days, they would be all blokes.
Yep.
Like you'd put on 15 to 25. But at that novice grassroots level, especially now, there's a lot of female participation. And I know that all kind of like, you said you yourself had Kaylee, who is an absolute legend to look up to. Of course, the girls coming up now have yourself to look up to.
That is really great to hear. I hope that I can inspire young athletes, young and old, to be honest, to jump in and give it a go, because it's not just about getting in there and bashing someone. It's something else. So if I can inspire someone to jump into the ring and give it a go, that's all I can ask.
And speaking of kind of the up and coming females, one young lady who has been doing a lot of work in the time that you were on the sidelines was Deandra Martin from Canberra. That was an absolutely awesome match. Of course, we chatted to her a couple of weeks ago, ideally before the fight, but did kind of end up going that way. So I suppose talk to us a little about what kind of your thoughts on that match were. Is that a fight that you'd like to get back on the books when things become a little bit more normal?
Oh, most definitely. I would love to jump into the ring with her. I would love to jump in the ring with anyone right now because no one wants to jump into the ring. People, I don't know what the issue is, but I've been turned down for so many Muay Thai fights. I've been matched up and then they pulled out. I was matched up for Rebellion. I was matched up for another one in Queensland, and they just keep pulling out on me. I haven't fought for over 2 years. Like, what is the problem? And Deandra, freaking legend for going, yes, let's do this. If I look back to my fight career, I have never stepped into the ring with anyone with equal or less fights than I have. Every person I ever stepped into the ring with had double to triple my fights, and it was amazing. Win, loss, draw. It was amazing for me to jump in there and just keep active. So, man, I was so excited when Deandra said, yep, let's do this. It would have been a hard fight. She's a strong girl.
This is top match.
Yeah, she is a legend. So I am still keen to jump in. I think it was meant to be postponed to the 24th of July, but that's not going to happen. So I think it will be postponed further to the next year to Sydney, and I'm definitely keen to still jump in if she's keen.
Yeah, awesome. And I think we're all pretty keen to see it. I was really, really excited for that fight. I was going to be on commentary. I was in the lucky spot. So, yeah, I was really, really keen for it, as I know you were as well. But hopefully we can see it before too long, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to happen. I mean, she's a tall fighter. I guess that's the biggest part that came up. She's really tall.
She's tall.
I'm fun size. I'm short. So it would have been an interesting matchup. I'm not going to take anything from anyone, and I've seen her fight before, but obviously when I saw her fight, I wasn't looking at her as an opponent. I was just admiring her fight, and I really thought it was great to see the level of Muay Thai that Canberra's got at the moment. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I think we'll kind of close out our time there. Like, been great speaking to you, Yolanda. Awesome. Always been the positive vibes I love. Where can people find your Instagram or any of the campaigns that you're behind as well? Like, yeah, just give them a shout out.
And so Landa_YOLO, LANDA_YOLO is all of my social media. So Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all the same thing. And then Facebook, Yolanda Schmidt, most active on Instagram, but hit me up on any of them. Look me an inbox message if you want some advice, or if you're keen on supporting the Orange Day on the 25th of every month, have a look out for my post and just click share, or share one yourself wearing some orange. So yeah, that's pretty much me. Social media. I have YouTube too, but I don't put enough content on there yet.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Thanks for listening again. Remember, like, subscribe, share our shit, show the love. Okay. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
See ya.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Yola.
Thanks again.